Are you looking for a space where you will learn to improve your mental strength, emotional health, and heal your insecurities from the inside out? Take the first step to living a more meaningful life with the Better Me with Body by Bree podcast. I'm your host, Bree. I'm a certified personal trainer, entrepreneur, and mother of 3. I've helped empower thousands of women to take action through fitness, nutrition, meditation, personal development, and aligning thoughts with action. This podcast is for those who are ready to feel inspired and motivated to live a more purposeful life. Let's grow together. Did you know your gut health is commonly known as your second brain? It's also connected to your immune system, regulating your hormones, skin issues, brain fog, anxiety, depression, weight gain, adrenal fatigue, and so much more. People often don't realize what an impact their gut health has on just about every aspect of their body. I have a special guest on the podcast today, Juanique Roney, also known as Gutsy Mom, who is the owner of Provo Health. She has an incredible story about healing after her husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and her research about the importance of food and gut health have helped thousands of women take back their health. I can't wait for you to learn from her today. Let's get started. Hi, Juanique. I'm so excited you are here with us today. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me on, Bree. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I can't wait to pick your brain because you're my idol. I love you so much. I talk about gut health all the time, but you're the OG. Like you're the original gangster of gut health.
I really love guts. It's true. I love digestive health. I love everything about it. I love how it's like this really important part of our anatomy and our healing. And if we are not digesting, we're just not absorbing and we're not healing and repairing our bodies. And everybody wants a healthy body. So it's kind of like the root system of the human body. And that's why I just love it so much. So thank you for having me on and letting me talk about like my most favorite topic ever.
Yes, of course. And you have so many good topics. It was hard to choose from just a couple that we want to focus on and hone in on. So I feel like I really love when you say you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Absolutely. So a lot of times we can eat food and it goes like straight through us. Just because you're eating it, it's not a guarantee that it's breaking down and it's absorbing in your small intestine. Like there are so many steps that need to happen in order for you to like really squeeze out like every iota of nutrients from your food. Kind of think of it like a sponge. If you get a wet sponge and you really wring it super duper hard, you're getting out all that moisture from that sponge versus wetting that sponge and just like giving it a mini squeeze, right? Well, only a little bit of moisture came out of that mini squeeze of that sponge. So in our GI tracts, we want to just squeeze out all the nutrients from our food. Otherwise, we're just creating like really nutrient dense poop. And we don't want that. We don't want to poop out all of that nutrition. We want to get every little bit out of the food that we are eating so that we can heal and absorb, because nutrients is really like the currency of healing in our body.
Yes. And that's so interesting because I went to this holistic doctor and got everything tested. And she's like, I'm surprised how deficient you are in all of these vitamins with how healthy you eat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I eat so healthy. And we found that I wasn't absorbing most of my food. And I'm sitting here spending so much money on like the most organic and the healthiest. And I work so hard on eating all my vegetables and I'm not even absorbing them all.
Exactly.
So why do so many people struggle to absorb their food? And how do you know if you're not absorbing your food?
So the number one culprit for our inability to absorb our food is actually stress. So there's a few things that happen when we chew our food, when we masticate it. That means when we chew our food up, it's getting this beautiful coat of saliva. So that's step one of digesting the food. Most of us wolf down our food. How many of us are truly masticating it into like tiny little bits and pieces? So we are actually designed to sit and relax and take our time with our food. But I don't know about your people that listen to your podcast, but most women that listen to me are moms. And how
Yeah.
many moms are eating on the go? Right?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
eating on the go. Sometimes we skip meals. Sometimes we're wolfing down like a protein bar in the car as we're dropping kids off. We are not in a rest and digest state. So we're in fight or flight. And when we are in fight or flight, these gastric juices, like the saliva that's supposed to be coming out of our mouths to like coat our food and break it down, it's not happening. And so that's step one where it's not happening. But then step two is it goes into the stomach, right? Now we're supposed to have this robust release of hydrochloric acid from our stomach to help break down and emulsify our foods. But when we're on the go again, we're not having a lot of hydrochloric acid being produced in our stomach to break down our food. Again, because we're in fight or flight and not rest and digest. And then third, after the stomach, it goes into the small intestine. And unfortunately, a lot of us that's where we get like digestive enzymes. You actually have a digestive enzyme product, which is fantastic. But a lot of us, because of our high stress lifestyle, the inflammatory foods that we eat that act like sandpaper on our small intestine, because of these factors, we're not having this like robust release of digestive enzymes to further help break down our food. And so we haven't conditioned our body to really absorb everything. And so this is why we have that disconnect of we're not absorbing our food, it's going straight through us. Another factor too is with that robust release of hydrochloric acid, it actually triggers another organ, the pancreas, to release those digestive enzymes. So we're not getting that signal anymore. We're not telling the body we're ready to break this down. We're actually telling the body like we're actually running from a bear. Let's go. And so that is our number one reason that we don't digest and absorb our food. Do you want another reason?
Yes. Well, and just to clarify that part, that's so interesting because I do notice after I eat, I have a stomach ache like almost all the time. And it's like, oh, my stomach hurts so bad. And now thinking back, it's always when I'm in a hurry.
Yes.
And I'm trying to eat fast. That's so interesting. It's so fun to know why that's happening.
Yes. Well, and your body is focusing its like neural pathways and it's focused like it's concentrating on like the muscles in your arms and your legs, right? When you're in like fight or flight mode, it's not focusing on like, oh, let's break down food. And so that's why, because like your stomach and everything, it's all stiff. It's not ready to like go and do the things, it's like break down food. And so what we need to do is one, digestion actually starts with prepping food in the kitchen. How many of us are actually like cutting up our bell peppers and we're smelling the meat as it's cooking and we're smelling the spices that we're using? Most of the time we're going to a restaurant and food shows up in front of you, right? And so we haven't really had that interaction with our food where we're smelling it and we're seeing it and we're getting ready to taste it. It's kind of like foreplay, like our body needs a little bit of foreplay with the food to be like, yeah, I'm ready to digest this baby, but that's not happening. We've completely bypassed foreplay and we're like, let's just get this over and done with. And the body's like, no, I actually love foreplay. Let's go back to old times where we like spent time enjoying our food. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and even like for a busy mom, like just instead of standing and eating, I feel like whenever I just sit down to eat, even if it's like 5 minutes, even if I am in a hurry, I feel like it kind of gives me that chance to like, oh, like, okay,
Yes.
Just like take a second. Like I don't have to be scarfing my food down. And for me, sometimes it can be an inconvenience to have to stop and eat. And so looking at it differently, just how we shift our view of it would help a lot. What was you said you had another one.
Oh, well, the other big factor as to why we're not absorbing our food is because we're eating so much inflammatory food that it actually starts breaking down these digestive organs. And so they become inflamed, they stop producing their enzymes and the hydrochloric acid. We start to get like gastritis, which is inflammation of the stomach, or we start to get ulcers, or we start to like suffer with like gallbladder pain or liver pain or, pancreatitis, because we're eating foods that don't have the vitamins and the minerals necessary to help heal those organs and keep them running like a well-oiled machine. So I kind of like to think of it like this. If you could imagine your perfect car, like it could be $1 million, it could be $50,000, whatever it is. Imagine, put it in your mind. What kind of oil would you give that car? Would you give it like the highest oil? Would you give it the lowest kind of oil? Like when you service it and clean it, would you use the best chemicals on the market? Would you use the cheapest chemicals on the market? Our bodies are kind of like this car, and we give it really cheap oils and chemicals, right? We want to give our bodies the best, highest, like quality fuel we ever could. But unfortunately, we live in a society where we are giving it low grade fuel all the time, and it doesn't have the necessary components to heal and repair itself. And so it breaks down, and then it causes dysfunctions, and then we are not absorbing our food anymore.
Yes. And it's interesting because a lot of I feel like I see people on Instagram, even fitness people, and they're like, normalize bloating. Like after you eat, it's normal to be bloated because your body's digesting your food. And I'm like, no, that is not normal. That's your body telling you that something's wrong.
Exactly.
You shouldn't be bloated all the time. And I feel like that's the number one issue that I hear from women is I feel bloated.
Yes.
And so I love hearing all of the reasons why. The world that I'm in, we count macros because that's like the easiest way to distribute your energy. And anyway, that's what I do. But an easy trap that people can fall into with that is that they go for the lowest macros on anything. And it sometimes is filled with sugar and artificial chemicals, and it's not going to actually help your body, Right. But because it's the low macros, they'll pick it. And so I'm trying to teach my community and my followers and my clients, go for the whole food. Like go for even if it's higher fat, it's better than putting chemicals into your body. And so trying to have them be more aware of the quality of foods that they're eating.
100%, because, and Bree, you're so like on the nose with that, because a calorie isn't just a calorie, That is absolutely not true. And I hope people can get that out of their brains immediately, because if we took like 1,000, let's say we had the exact same ratios, a plate of cookies and it was 1,000 calories. And then we had a plate of like vegetables and, eggs and protein and healthy fats, and it was 1,000 calories. The cookies have no nutritional value. It's just macros. There's no vitamins. There's no minerals. Vitamins and minerals, these are the micros, right? We need to emphasize micros a little bit more. The plate of vegetables and protein, like the healthy proteins and the healthy fats, they have all these micros. And what the micros actually do is they are really, really important parts of the coenzymes and the enzymes necessary to like break down food and to even make proteins that help you metabolize fat. Because a lot of people think, well, calories in, calories out. No. Yes, to some extent, but you need those micros, you need those vitamins and those minerals to create enzymes to break down the fat to turn it into energy. So that's why a lot of people are like, I'm eating less calories. Why am I not losing weight? It's like, well, you don't have these cofactors to create the proteins to break down those fats, to create the enzymes to break down those fat. Eat smart, right? Like you got to eat the food that gives you the chemistry to help you metabolize your foods properly. And I hope that made sense. Did that make sense?
Yes, I love that. And even when people say like, oh, well, I'm going to drink this protein shake, but then it's filled with chemicals and artificial sweeteners. And I'm like, it'd be better if you just didn't, don't drink that shit. That's not actually helping you. That's actually hurting you more. So anyway, I'm trying to educate my community as much as I can because I'm so passionate about it and I've seen it. I even did, I don't know what you think of Whole30, but I did do Whole30 where I just kind of took out any processed stuff, any inflammatory foods for 30 days to see how my body reacted. I
Mm-hmm.
could not believe how
Okay.
I was not bloated once.
Yeah.
I had so much energy. I was eating so many vegetables. I was eating
Mm-hmm.
so much fat. I didn't, and I was like, I feel so good.
Yeah.
Like I could not believe it. It was night and day because a lot of people I didn't realize how, and I wasn't eating unhealthy. I was just,
Mm-hmm.
eating some inflammatory foods that made me feel bloated all the time.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize how bad they feel until they feel how good it could be. And then they're like,
Exactly.
oh, I can go back to that now, you know?
Right. Yes.
So
Well,
what?
and think about it this way, like if your body is having to deal with the inflammation from these foods that are not natural, you're utilizing energy to do damage control instead of utilizing energy to build muscle and have fun with your kids and to feel good in your body. And so it's all about like energy distribution. Are you using more energy to do damage control with your food? Or is your food adding to your energy bank so you can be the highest version of yourself? And so we
Yes.
have to start looking at it like that because we can't just keep doing damage control over and over and over again because that's just more wear and tear and more energy being used that us tired moms just can't afford these days because we're busy chasing around children and growing babies, right? We're already maxed out on like,
Yes.
our energy stores as it is. So there you go.
Yes. Well, and it'll manifest in other ways, like through rashes or like even I've heard infertility, like having all of
Mm-hmm.
this is really hard on your body and its hormones, when you're having the
Yeah,
inflammatory foods.
100.
So tell us what are examples of inflammatory foods? And is it
Inflammatory
the same
foods.
for everyone? Like some people I know don't do well with dairy and some people are like, "Oh, I'm fine with dairy." So is it the same for everyone or is it like no, all of these foods are inflammatory foods?
So there are certain foods that it's like across the board, they're not great, like processed foods, right? Oreos,
Right.
like no one should be eating an Oreo because it doesn't grow on a tree. When
Right.
we start looking at like the dairy world, here's the thing. The sign of a healthy digestive tract and a healthy microbiome balance, so that's the gut bacteria in your gut that helps you break down your food, is that you can tolerate all nature made foods. So dairy included, right? Some people are just born and they're allergic to dairy and lactose. They don't have an enzyme that breaks down the lactose from dairy. But for most people, if you can eat all organic grains, all fruits, all vegetables, or let's say the majority of all of these, all like the majority of meats, like you got a healthy gut that can break down all of these things. When people have a lot of inflammation and they have a lot of digestive distress, they start to their food intolerances start to go up and up and up and up, and then they can't digest anything, and that is a sign of an inflammatory gut. So going back to your original question, like, are all foods good for everyone? They should be. All like nature made foods are like, I can't say it's a rule of thumb, but everyone should be able to handle them. But are there foods that people shouldn't be able to handle? Yeah, like high fructose corn syrup, like anything made by man that has like an astronomical amount of like sugar and sodium. So let me give you an example. A plate of vegetables, or let's use legumes. Legumes have the perfect ratio of potassium to sodium, which is great for blood pressure and adrenal health. And your adrenals are your stress glands. All of us moms know what stress is, right? If your adrenals are healthy and they're being fed well, then you can handle your stress well, right? So if we're eating a plate of legumes and it has healthy sodium potassium ratios, a lot of potassium, a little bit of sodium, your adrenals are going to be happy, you're going to stress well. Well, most man-made foods that are in a package, like through the roof sodium, very little potassium. So now we're getting issues like high blood pressure and fatigue and lethargy. And, our kidneys are being strained because we have to like handle all of this excessive amount of sodium. So like when man changes food, we change like this chemical composition that actually hurts our body long term and doesn't help it. When we eat food from nature, it has like the perfect like ratios of vitamins and minerals to really help our bodies heal and repair. So again, going back to your original question, processed foods, processed meats, anything in a box, anything in a package, if it didn't grow from a tree, chances are your body's going to have a harder time metabolizing it, and you're going to utilize more energy to break it down. And then your body's going to have to use more energy to do damage control around that food versus eating something natural that is actually adding to your energy and is actually healing your body and is actually adding to like enzyme functions and coenzyme functions to help you, help your body do all the processes necessary to keep you alive and well and healthy. Did that make sense?
Yes. So how would somebody know if it's working because they don't feel bloated anymore? They're able to eat all the foods and it doesn't bother them? Or how do they know if they're absorbing their food now?
So they will know because bloat, gassiness, heartburn, constipation, diarrhea, those are all really big signs of digestive distress. So let me add, like, people that are listening right now, are you pooping at least once to twice a day? Because some people are like, I poop twice a week. And we should be pooping all the time, like once to twice a day. And it should,
Right.
there's something called the Bristol scale. And you want your poop to be like a nice soft S, and it sinks. That is a sign of one really healthy, really healthy digestion. But if you are getting bloated, that is inflammation in your gut. If you are having pain when you're digesting, that's inflammation in your gut. If you're getting brain fog when you're eating, or if you're getting tired right after a meal, like you have to take a nap, that's a sign that there could be some digestive issues. But the big signs are bloat, gassiness, constipation, diarrhea. And so we want to just make sure that those are in check. Oh, and heartburn. How many people are taking antacids these days, which is horrible, you guys. I wish doctors would get to the core of why people have heartburn, but doctors put people on antacids, and that actually makes digestion and absorption 10 times worse. So we're band-aiding one issue, but creating 10 down the line. So if you are suffering with bloat, gassiness, things that you mentioned, Bree, there's digestive issues at play there for sure.
That's so interesting. And also that your gut is your second brain. So how it's correlated with fatigue and brain fog and anxiety and depression and serotonin levels, which is your feel good. I don't think people realize that it really is the center of your health is your gut.
It is. It really is. And there's some scientists that actually say your gut is actually your first brain and the brain is the second brain. Either way, they are so important for each other. And what's really interesting, this is like a fun fact. There's actually, the brain that's connected to your gut through the vagus nerve. There's about 30. Okay, let me start from the beginning. The amount of information going from brain to stomach is 30%, and the amount of information going from stomach to brain is actually 70. So your stomach is giving more information to your brain than your brain is actually giving to the stomach. Isn't that cool? And so that's what, your GI, yes, your GI tract is almost telling the brain what's going on, right? And it's like governing the brain. And even though the brain is still important, like there's way more happening from your stomach to your brain than your brain to your stomach. Also, scientists are back and forth on this, but serotonin, which is like the happy hormone, and dopamine, which is like the motivation hormone, like the majority of your serotonin is like made in the gut, but serotonin and dopamine are both stored in the gut. So if you have inflammation in the gut, we're destroying these hormones. We can't utilize them. We can't transport them, so we want to make sure that this storage system, like think of the GI tract as like the storehouse for dopamine and serotonin. Like if that storehouse is in shambles, we're not storing these neurotransmitters, which make us happy and motivated. So then what are we? We have this perfect house, we have this perfect husband, we have these perfect kids, and we're miserable and we're unhappy and we're not motivated and we feel depressed and we feel anxious. Well, this is why. It's not because of your circumstances. It's because of this inflammation in your gut. So we got to heal the gut to make our brain feel really, really good. They're so interconnected. You can't fix one without the other. Isn't that cool?
It's amazing. And I can feel it. Like, and people can feel it when they're eating healthy, they are happier, you know, like when they are eating whole foods and they are taking health as their priority. They're like, I just feel so good. Like, I just feel so happy. Like it really is correlated. That's such an important point. So if we were to do 3 main takeaways. Oh, yeah.
I want to quickly touch on that point because a lot of people are probably listening to what you said and they're like, actually, when I drink my diet soda, I feel really good. When I eat my Twinkie or my Oreo cookies, I feel really good. Actually, when you do eat highly processed sugar, you get a quick short-term dopamine dump, which makes sugar the perfect drug. But it is short-term with a massive crash. So then we go back to that drug, that sugar drug, for that quick dopamine dump, because dopamine is motivation. It's like, oh, I'm ready to do the things, but it's short-term again. And then we crash even harder. So then we go back to the sugar for another dopamine dump. And then we get a little bit done and then we're crashing again. And so I want your listeners to really understand that, yes, that's why you're craving your Coca-Cola and your soda. And that's why you're craving your crumble cookie every now and then, because you're craving that short high. But it's not sustainable. So when you, Bree, said, when I eat healthy and I feel really good, when you eat healthy, that's sustainable happiness and sustainable healthy and sustainable motivation. You eat well and you feel amazing for weeks. It's not like a quick high and a massive crash, a quick high and a massive crash. It's sustainable and it's stable and it helps just balance everything and makes you just feel like this like non-crazy bliss state when we're actually having the body create a sustainable amount of serotonin and dopamine. So I hope that makes sense, because a lot of people are like, no, actually my processed food makes me feel good, but it's because of that dopamine dump that's very short term, but it has a long-term consequence.
No, I love that you touch on that, because I always say, like, I'm a foodie. Food brings me happiness. Like, I really get like a euphoric feeling when I eat.
Me too.
You know, like those foods. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it is helpful to know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, yes, this feels good now, but I am going to have a headache later. You know,
yes,
I'm going to have, like, it's true. It's so addicting. That feeling is so addicting. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because I feel like if you're human, like, it is, a warm chocolate chip cookie is amazing.
Right. 100%.
So yeah. So I love that you touched on that. Thank you. So if we could give our listeners 3 takeaways for, like, a mom who might feel a little intimidated by this, like maybe this whole world is new to her and she doesn't really know where to start, what would be your 3 tips for her?
So I would say, let's start with some food that is less intimidating, like snacking on fruits. Like, everybody loves raspberries and blueberries and, some bananas and apples with almond butter. So if we're eating more fruits that have, vitamins and minerals in it, that's a really great start. Another tip that I give people is make a green smoothie every day. So you're putting greens in there, you're putting fruit in there, you're putting Bree's protein powder in there, whether it's the vanilla or the chocolate. You're adding maybe a little bit of almond milk, maybe like lemon in there, whatever your concoction is. Make a yummy green smoothie every morning and drink that, and get at least like 4 servings of veggies that way if possible. It's so easy and it's so tasty, you don't even know it's in there. It's like drinking a yummy salad. Another tip.
What veggies do you put in your shake?
So I'll tell you what my smoothie is almost every morning. A lot of people might not think it sounds amazing, but I actually love it. So I'll do like close to 5, if not 6 cups of greens, and I like stuff it down in my blender. I put a whole lemon in. I put about an inch of ginger. I put about half an inch of like turmeric root. So ginger root, turmeric root, and then I'll put like flax and chia and hemp hearts, because flax and chia, they're really great. It's super amazing fiber for your gut biome. And so it's like the perfect food to feed your bacteria. Then the hemp hearts has the incredible source of proteins and omegas. And then I'll put like mushroom powders in there, like shiitake, maitake, lion's mane, a little bit of moringa powder, a little bit. Oh my gosh, Bree, you have your green powder. Like your listeners could put the green powder in their smoothie, and then blend that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have this incredible like superfood that can take you like, 20 minutes to drink, like, and make sure you're sipping on it. You're not just chugging it down, because remember, we want that saliva to kind of like coat our food. But that's kind of like the drink that I do. I don't really put milks in mine. I'll just add like some water, and it actually tastes like a lemony ginger lemonade for me. And that's like, it's not creamy at all. It reminds me of like a drink. So that's what I put in my smoothie. But that again, like, I don't drink my smoothie to be like, oh, this is nice and sweet and like a milkshake. I drink it because I'm like, I crave the greens, and I crave the healthy aspect of it.
Yes, I love that. What would be your last tip?
So I want
for beginners who are kind of intimidated.
Yeah, like I want them to remember that a great rule of thumb is just crowd out the unhealthy food. So if you're starting with green smoothies this week, maybe next week you're eating your normal meals, but you're adding like an extra serving of vegetables to dinner or something. Or maybe the following week you're cutting up celery and cucumber and you're putting out ranch and you're like snacking on that as like a snack throughout the day. You do not have to eat 8 servings of vegetables overnight. Make it 2 servings of vegetables this week. Make it 3 servings of vegetables the next week. Then the next week, make it 4 servings of vegetables. And then the next week, make it 5. Because when people are like, I'm going to go cold turkey on my sugar and cold turkey on my soda, and I'm just going to eat vegetables, you will fail by day 3. Guaranteed. Happens to 99.9% of us.
Right.
And this is why, because I hope I don't get too technical here, but when we eat a lot of sugar, we actually feed bad bacteria that makes you crave the sugar more. But when we start crowding out the sugar nice and slowly, and we start actually eating like whole food fibers and vegetables, we then start to feed the bacteria, the healthy bacteria that will make you crave more vegetables down the line. But you have to nurture that gut garden. You don't just like starve the bad bacteria overnight, because that's when the cravings start to hit, and we will give into those cravings. So you have to like slowly starve out the bad bacteria and then slowly nurture the good bacteria. And so this is going to take weeks, if not months. So I want you guys to remember, crowd out the sugar and slowly introduce the vegetables. Think of it like dating. Like when you date someone on the first date, you're not like, we're getting married tomorrow. No, you have to get to know them. You have to like warm up to them. You have to get to know their quirks. It's the same thing with like vegetables. We're dating it. We're trying to like learn about vegetables. How do you taste in this oil? How do you taste when I put this kind of seasoning on you? Like get familiar with it slowly. This isn't a race. Like, this isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. So take your time, crowd it out, be really gentle with yourselves when you do this. Okay.
I love that. I have one more question, and I feel like it's like a very popular thing right now is everybody's cutting out gluten and dairy. So What are your thoughts about that?
So oh man, I'll need like 10 minutes for this. I'll try and like shorten it up really quick. So because we live in a day and age where we actually are in a massive digestive epidemic, a lot of people are walking around with a ton of inflammation in their gut. So remember in the beginning, I spoke about sandpaper on the GI tract. Well, when we have that like wear and tear on the GI tract from inflammatory foods, it weakens our ability to digest and absorb foods. And so there are some foods that are actually harder to digest. And so when your GI tract, when your digestive tract is already stressed, the proteins in gluten and the proteins in dairy are actually going to aggravate your GI tract and your immune system. And so it's going to provoke more inflammation. And so you have to like cut out the foods that are actually harder to digest and provoke that immune response. You cut them out, you heal up the gut, you let the immune system kind of calm down, and then you can reintroduce them again, as long as they're from clean sources. Because a lot of gluten-based sources, for instance, are like, it's wheat that is like drenched in glyphosate. And so glyphosate is a spray that they put on wheat fields for many reasons, but that glyphosate is very inflammatory to your gut. So when you're reintroducing wheat again and you're reintroducing bread, make sure it's organic, so it's not sprayed with glyphosate. Make sure it is like, if you're doing bread, like it can be sourdough bread because that's easier to digest because it's already fermented. And then when it comes to dairy, if you can do organic or raw dairy or grass-fed dairy.
Can I ask you a question about the bread?
Yes.
Sorry, I want to ask you a question about the bread before you go to the dairy. So like for us, because I know like it is, I feel like we're missing out on a lot of the fiber and like the good things that grains give to us, like the quinoa and the amaranth and the, the flax and everything. So we do, I want to ask you, Dave's Killer Bread, it's like non-GMO and organic and it has all the seeds. Like that's healthy for you, right? Like that has benefit for you, right?
It has benefit as long as you don't have digestive inflammation. Like as long as your gut is like, I'm trying to think of like a way to explain this. If your gut is healthy, because if your gut is healthy and robust, then it can actually break down those grains, because grains are actually pretty hard to break down. And so, but if you have a healthy gut, then you won't have a problem breaking that down. But if you have an unhealthy gut and you have like a revved up immune system, then that is going to just, your body trying to break that down is actually going to aggravate it even more. And so we want to make sure your gut is doing really well so that you can break that down. So when I was in the throes of my health issues, I had to cut out bread and dairy and all that and get my inflammation down and heal up my gut. And now my gut is like healthy and robust. And now I eat bread and I eat grains, and occasionally I'll buy raw milk, because we need the variety and we do need those nutrients. And the more variety of foods you eat, like the better your microbiome balance. So cutting out certain food groups should always be a temporary measure for you to get to the other side of healing. And then you reintroduce it back slowly.
Right. Okay, got it. Sorry, you can move on to the dairy.
And so just with dairy, when you're once your gut is healed up and you're reintroducing the dairy, we just want to make sure that it's like organic, or if it's raw dairy, because dairy from conventional cows, those cows are being pumped with hormone. So you're drinking milk with hormone in it, and how many women have hormonal issues, right? And so, and then they're also overheating the dairy. So they're destroying all the healthy bacteria that helps populate your gut and actually breaks down the proteins in that milk and the sugar in that milk. And so you're destroying the bacteria. It has hormones in it. And then when they heat it, they actually damage the protein in there. And so the protein molecules become like damaged and sticky, and provokes an immune response. So that's why I always tell people, if you're going to do dairy, try to make sure that it's like raw dairy, or it's like fermented dairy or something like that, to help your body, just kind of give it a break, and to help absorb it and utilize it.
Got it. Oh man, this was so helpful. Is she not like the best? I feel like you're just so knowledgeable, and it's so fun to pick your brain. I could talk to you for hours. I just want to ask you all the questions, because
I could too.
I appreciate the research that you've done. Well, yeah, and also it's really exciting because and if people want to learn more from you, they can go to Provo Health. So yes. They can check you out there, right? And she has an amazing Instagram, Gutsy Mom. And I'm going to link everything. I'll link Provo Health. I'll link Gutsy Mom. I'll link anything else that she would like you guys to have access to. Is there anything that you would like our followers to know about Provo Health?
No, they can find it out there. Provo Health is my clinic. It's where I have wellness coaches, and I do one-on-one. But for people that are starting out on their healing journeys, the My Gutsy Health membership is a really great place to start learning before you start implementing all these changes, right? So I always tell people, collect data, make changes, collect more data, make more changes. Don't get overwhelmed. Like, you have time to learn how to heal your body. And what a beautiful gift to give yourself permission to become the expert in your body. And so even though I do have that clinic where I can help people find answers, I highly recommend, if people are looking for more, they actually join the membership, and they learn more about their food, and they learn more about their bodies, and they learn more about the chemistry of what's happening in their bodies when they're digesting their food. But I also want to shout out your products, like your enzymes. Your enzymes help to break down your food. Those greens, if you can't even do a green smoothie, do Bree's greens. Use her protein, because her protein is super clean, has monk fruit, really good whey source. I mean, her products are solid, you guys. Start there. So throw out the products that have all the additives and the fillers and the bad sugars, and use her cleaner products, and let those help you take the first step to healing. And then you can start with the green smoothies, and then adding more vegetables, and so on and so forth. So take your time with your healing. It doesn't have to happen overnight, and it actually won't happen overnight. So there you go. That was way longer than what you were meaning, Bree. But yeah, there's more information on my Instagram. There's also my podcast, Gutsy Health. I have a podcast where we talk about this for days and days and days. So there you go.
Yes, so much knowledge, so many places to learn, and you are always giving free resources too, which I appreciate, and I know everyone else appreciates. So thank you so much for being here. You are the best. Have such a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. If you liked the content and want to hear more, remember to hit that subscribe button and write a review. As a small business owner, I appreciate it more than you know. If you are looking for a program to help with self-confidence, to lose weight, get in shape, and work on your mental, physical, and emotional health, check out my training programs on www.bodybybree.com. My team and I help to hold you accountable through the Body by Bree app, where you log in to see all your workouts, custom meal plan made specifically for you and your needs, and communication through the messenger. You are never alone when you're on the Body by Bree training program. Click the link in the show notes to get more information on how to transform your life from the inside out.